You smell gas in the driveway, there's a wet spot under the back of the car, and somebody has told you about the gum. Chew a piece soft, press it into the pinhole, and it seals. I understand why that sounds right, and the man who told you is not a fool. Gum genuinely does hold on some things. Press it into a leaking bucket or a water jug, and it will stop a drip for a day because it is soft, it is sticky, and it presses into a hole and stays. Here is the part nobody carried forward. Gum is a rubber base. Gasoline dissolves rubber. That is the same property that makes it plug a water jug and the exact property that destroys it on a fuel tank, because the fuel is on the inside, pushing out, softening it from the moment you press it in. So it holds in the driveway, and it lets go somewhere on the road, usually inside an hour, usually while you are moving. Fuel drips onto a hot exhaust, and the gum that let go did not simply stop working. It went into the tank toward your pump strainer, now the part that ought to make you angry. A fuel tank leak is not an expensive repair when you understand it. It is a $30 part and a Saturday on plenty of cars, and half the tanks condemned in this country are leaking somewhere that is not the tank at all. I spent 30 years running a truck repair yard where a fuel leak meant a rig sat, so we learned to find them fast. By the end of this, you will know what is actually leaking, the 2 roadside measures that genuinely work, and the safety order that keeps this from being the last thing you ever do to a car. Number 18 is the free test that tells you in 10 minutes whether your tank is even the problem, and most of the time it is not. Number 11 is the repair that costs $30 and holds for years, done properly. And number 1 takes 4 minutes, and it is the reason a yard man never once had a truck catch fire. These 25 tricks were never about a stick of gum. They were about men who understood that a fuel system is the one part of a car that can kill you, and that everything you are allowed to do next depends on finding out exactly what is wet. Let us count down the 25 things they knew about a leaking tank. Number 25. Getting away from the car first, before anything. If you smell raw fuel and see it dripping, that car is not driven, and it is not parked in a garage. It goes outside, away from any water heater pilot, any furnace, any dryer. A yardman in 1965 pushed a truck out before he looked at it. The gasoline itself does not chase you. The vapor pools, finds an ignition source, and comes back for the car. Number 24. Knowing what your tank is made of. Plastic tanks, standard on most cars since the 1990s, cannot be soldered, welded, or patched with metal epoxy. Steel tanks are still common on trucks and older cars and take different repairs entirely. It takes 10 seconds with a light under the car. Every option in this video splits at that line, and almost nobody tells you which side you're standing on. Number 23. Following the wet upward, not to the puddle. Fuel runs downhill along a frame rail and drips off the lowest point, which is almost never where it left the system. You clean the whole area with a rag, drive a short distance, and go back with a light to find the highest wet point. A yardman in 1965 chased it up. The puddle tells you where gravity ended. The highest stain tells you where the leak began. Number 22. Checking the filler neck first. The rubber hose between your filler door and the tank cracks with age and heat, and it leaks only when the tank is above 3/4 full, which is why a man swears his tank leaks sometimes and not others. It is a $40 hose and 2 clamps. A shopman in 1965 checked it before he dropped anything. If your leak comes and goes with the fuel level, look above the tank. Number 21. Checking the vent and evaporative lines. Running off the top of the tank are vent hoses and evaporative lines that carry vapor, and when one cracks, you get a strong fuel smell with almost no visible drip. That smell is what most men interpret as a leaking tank. A mechanic in 1965 traced the smell before he blamed the metal. A smell without a wet spot is usually vapor, and vapor comes from a hose. Number 20. Checking the sending unit seal. The fuel pump and level sender sit in a large opening in the top of the tank, sealed with a rubber gasket or a lock ring. That seal hardens and weeps, and the fuel runs down the outside of the tank and drips off the bottom, so it looks exactly like a rusted tank. A yardman in 1965 wiped the top of a tank with his hand. Half the leaks under a tank started on top of it. Number 19. Reading the difference between rust and rot. Surface rust on a steel tank is cosmetic and common. Scaly flaking with soft spots means the steel has thinned and a patch will not hold because the metal around your pinhole is going too. You press gently with a screwdriver handle. A yardman in 1965 tested the metal around every hole. One pinhole in sound steel is a repair. One pinhole in lace is a new tank. Number 18. The free test that names it. Wash the whole underside of the tank and the lines with soapy water and rinse it, then dry it and dust the area lightly with talc or plain flour. Drive a short distance and look. The escaping fuel marks the powder in one spot, and now you have the exact source instead of a guess. A shopman in 1965 used chalk dust. Guessing costs a tank. Watching costs an afternoon. Here's something nobody is counting. The men who ran repair yards, who could find a fuel leak with a rag and a flashlight before the driver finished describing it, are nearly all gone. The youngest are past 80. They did not keep it in a manual. They kept it in their hands, over 30 years of lying on gravel under trucks that could not wait. When they go, the tools stay on the shelf for $40, exactly where they always were, and the knowing goes into the ground. That chain ran bench to apprentice for 50 years, and then fuel systems got sealed behind a relay nobody explains, and a smell became a diagnostic fee. If this is worth something to you, take 1 second right now and hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. That is the only reason a video like this ever reaches the next man who needs it. Number 17. Never anything that burns, sparks, or charges nearby. No smoking, no grinder, no welder, no drop light with a hot bulb, no phone charger hanging off the battery, no running engine, and the negative battery cable comes off before you go under there. A yardman in 1965 walked the area before he lay down. It is never the fuel that starts it. It is one spark that had no business being within 20 feet. Number 16. Never welding or soldering a tank, full or empty. An empty tank is more dangerous than a full one because a full tank has no room for an explosive air and vapor mixture, and an empty one is nothing else. Men have been killed doing this in their own driveways. Tank welding is a job for a shop with a purge setup, or it is not a job. Empty does not mean safe. It means the tank is full of the part that explodes. Number 15. The 2 roadside measures that actually work. If you must get somewhere, a fuel-resistant epoxy putty stick, kneaded and pressed onto a dry, clean surface, will hold a pinhole long enough to get home, and it costs about $8 in any parts store. Or a rubber-lined hose clamp over a leaking rubber line. That is the honest list. A yardman in 1965 carried putty in the box. Neither one is a repair. Both are a way to finish the trip. Number 14. Running the tank down before you work on it. Fuel weight and fuel pressure both work against you, and a nearly empty tank is lighter, safer, and leaks less while you handle it. You drive it down or pump it out into approved red or metal cans outdoors. A shopman in 1965 emptied first without being asked. Every mistake on this list gets worse in proportion to how much fuel is still in there. Number 13. Never siphoning by mouth. Men still do it. Swallowed gasoline, or worse, gasoline aspirated into the lungs, causes chemical pneumonia, and it puts people in hospitals every year. A hand pump siphon is $15, and most cars since the 1990s have an anti-siphon screen in the filler neck anyway. A yardman in 1965 used a pump. The fuel is not only flammable, it is poison. Number 12. Cleaning to bare, dry metal before any patch. Every patch on Earth fails on a wet, dirty, or fuel-weeping surface. You wire brush or sand the area to clean metal, Wipe it and let it dry completely, and if it is still weeping, the tank is not empty enough. A shopman in 1965 would not mix epoxy until the spot was dry. It is almost never the patch that fails. It is what was under it. Number 11. The proper repair on a steel tank. For a pinhole in sound metal, a 2-part fuel-resistant tank repair epoxy applied to clean dry metal and given its full cure time holds for years. It is about $30 in one afternoon. It is not a bodge. It is what tank repair kits are. A yardman in 1965 patched dozens this way. The cheap fix and the correct fix are the same thing here, provided you do the preparation. There is a reason nobody tells you which $40 of supplies does this. Count the money. A fuel tank replaced at a shop runs $600 to $1,200 on a car and more on a truck, because dropping a tank is most of the labor. A fuel pump assembly, which usually comes out at the same time, is another $600 to $200. Diagnosis of a fuel smell alone runs $120 to $180 before anything is touched, and a filler neck hose, which is what a lot of these leaks actually are, is $40 in parts. Now the other side. Epoxy putty, $8. Tank repair epoxy, $30. A hand pump, $15. A bag of flour you already own, under $60, and one Saturday, and the diagnosis is free. The craft was not lost. It was made unprofitable, and then it was allowed to die. Do me one favor before we get to the top 9. Hit like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so the next one finds you. That is the entire price of this. Number 10. Respecting the cure time. Fuel-resistant epoxies need hours to cure fully, and every one of them fails if you put fuel against it in an hour because you were impatient. You mix it, apply it, and leave the car overnight before you refill. A shopman in 1965 wrote the time on a piece of tape. The patch was not weak. It was still soft when somebody filled the tank. Number 9. Supporting a tank properly if it comes down. A tank comes down on 2 straps, and full or half full, it is heavy and awkward, and it will land on your chest. You empty it first, support it with a jack and a piece of plywood, and undo the straps last, with the wiring and lines disconnected. A yardman in 1965 never dropped one alone. That is not a part you catch. Number 8. Never working under a car on a jack alone. Jack stands on level concrete, chalked wheels, and a shake test before you go under. This is true of any job, and it is true twice here because you cannot get out fast if something goes wrong with fuel. A shopman in 1965 taught the stands before the wrench. The jack lifts the car. Only the stands hold it. Number 7. Replacing rubber lines with real fuel line. Any hose you replace on a fuel system has to be rated fuel injection hose, marked on the wall with proper fuel injection clamps. Standard rubber hose swells and bursts on an injected system, and a worm gear clamp cuts into it. A yardman in 1965 matched the hose to the system. Hose is not hose. The number printed on the wall is the whole spec. Number 6. Knowing when the tank is genuinely done. If the steel flakes, if there is more than one hole, if a screwdriver handle dents it, or if it is plastic with a crack rather than a pinhole, no patch is honest, and continuing is how a leak becomes a fire. A yardman in 1965 condemned tanks plainly and without apology. Knowing what you cannot save is the same skill as knowing what you can. Number 5. Keeping the tank full through the winter. A steel tank half empty collects condensation on the bare metal above the fuel line, and that water sits in the bottom and rusts the tank from the inside, which is where most tank pinholes actually begin. Keeping it above half through the cold months costs nothing. A driver in 1965 filled up in November. The tank did not rust from the road. It rusted from the air inside it. Number 4. Rinsing the salt off the underside. Everything under your car, tank straps included, rusts from road salt, and the straps often go before the tank does, and then it hangs. On every thaw day above freezing, rinse the frame, the straps, and the tank. A northern driver in 1965 washed through every winter. The salt does nothing while frozen. It goes to work on the warm day after. Number 3. Knowing where a fuel leak always is. You do not guess. It is the filler neck hose above the tank, the vent and evaporative lines on top, the sending unit seal, the rubber lines and their clamps, the hard line where it passes a bracket and chafes, and last of all, the tank itself. That is the list, roughly in order of likelihood. A yardman in 1965 worked it in that order. The tank is the most expensive answer and the least common one. Number 2. The seasonal look with a light and a clean rag. Twice a year, cold engine, on stands, you wipe those 6 places dry and look at them again a week later. 15 minutes. It is not a repair. It is a standing appointment with the one system on your car that can burn, and it is where every leak on this list would have been caught while it was still a stain. Number 1. Trusting your nose and going to look the same day. That is all. 4 minutes with a flashlight, the first morning you smell fuel where you park. Because every fire in this video started as a smell somebody drove around with for 2 weeks, and a fuel leak is the one fault on a car that gets worse and more dangerous every single day you leave it. Your grandfather did this without calling it anything. He called it going to have a look. Number 1 is not a trick. It is the look that makes the other 24 possible. If this was worth your time, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell right now. It costs you nothing, and it is the whole reason I get to keep making these. None of this needed a certification, a scan tool, or a subscription to anything. It needed $60 of supplies, a flashlight, a clean rag, and a man who respected the difference between a system that spills and a system that burns. That was the default setting in every yard in America. Not confidence handed down from a classroom, confidence built from having found enough leaks to know that the tank is almost never the thing that is leaking. We did not lose the knowledge. The putty is on the shelf at the parts store, $8, right where it always was. We lost the hands that checked 6 places before condemning a tank, and the old man who wiped his palm across the top of one, held it up, and said, "There, your leak is on top, and you are about to pay for the bottom." So tell me down in the comments what you were driving, and go look under the back of it with a light. Steel tank or plastic, and where exactly is the wet? That one answer decides everything in this video, and it takes 30 seconds to find out. He is gone now, and most of what he knew went with him. But not all of it, because some of it is in this video, written down at last. So keep the gum in your pocket, where it belongs. For anything that burns, find the real source first, then spend the $30 and do it properly. Once. Next time I will show you how those same men found a fuel delivery problem with a $30 pressure gauge in 10 minutes on trucks 3 shops had already guessed at. The craft is not dead. It is a flashlight and a willing pair of knees away.